Hi, everyone. Before we get to the episode, I have a couple dates. You can see me come do some stand up. February 3rd, which is a Friday, this upcoming Friday in Lawrence, Kansas at Lucia next to Granada. This is the monthly show that I run down in Lawrence. Got some amazing comedians coming in for that one. And then back in Omaha, Saturday, February 11th, the night before the Super Bowl, I'm going to be at the German American Society, which is going to be, a little scary being a Jewish kid in the German American Society, but I'll have some fun with it. And then I'm hosting for Greg Warren at the Comedy Club of Kansas City, March 2nd through the 4th. Tickets for the all those shows will be in my bio, Spencer_Gordman on Instagram. So if you want to come see me live, go check out my Instagram bio and buy some tickets. All right, now enjoy the podcast with Eytan. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the On Their Way Up podcast. My name is Spencer Gordman. I'm a stand up comedian. And today we are joined by an incredible guest. He has been playing cello for past 15 years, classically, but then within the last year or so, he started busking and playing in bars. And he enjoyed it so much that he decided to create a band with his brother called the Raviv Brothers Band. And now they're playing in bars all around the Chicago area and absolutely tearing it up. Thank you for being on the podcast, Eytan Raviv. What's going on?
Thanks for having me.
Dude, thank you for being on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you started playing cello 15 years ago. So what, you were 4 or 5 years old?
Yeah, it was far.
So I assume there's really no time for an instrument to happen before then. So how did you start getting into cello?
My mom forced me to play. She said, pick an instrument. It can be it can be a string instrument, it can be like piano or something. And I picked the cello. I was obsessed with that one the most. But she definitely forced me to practice the whole like first 6 years of it, and I think even longer than that. I didn't love it in the beginning, and if it wasn't for her, I definitely would have put it down a while ago. But she forced me to keep going with it, which was it's paid off.
Yeah, obviously. Uh, what drew you to cello? Because you kind of said you just kind of picked it on a whim almost, or because you liked it.
Yeah, I just every time I went to see like an orchestra play, my eyes were always locked on the cello section. I wasn't really looking at any of the other instruments. Actually, I
Interesting.
wanted to play the bassoon once. Uh, I was also for some reason really obsessed with the bassoon, but uh, my mom said I couldn't do that. So
She's like, I don't want to hear bassoon. I just do
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So your mom, was she always like a driving force into like classical music? Because it seemed the instruments you were looking at, not really electric guitar like a drum kit. It was more the classical route.
yeah, exactly. She plays the piano, and she grew up playing the
Got it.
piano, and she always wanted to give me and my siblings a good classical education. And so I think she would have been totally supportive if I wanted to play electric guitar, but it probably would have had to be in addition to one of the classical instruments.
That'd been so funny. Like your main instrument is the cello, and then you can go do whatever you want with your little friends. Like
Yeah,
still
exactly.
playing music. That's great though, because you said you didn't start, or you for the first couple of years you weren't really into it. When was that point where you were like, "Oh, I think I'm pretty good at this, and I'm having a lot of fun"?
I would say that actually started in high school.
Wow, so you played for like a straight almost decade before you started getting really into it.
Yeah, I had moments where I enjoyed it before that. I enjoyed playing with people. I enjoyed some group classes, and I think in high school I started to really appreciate the value of actually having that skill. Um, what it could do for me in the long run. And it became more fun. I learned to like it more. Um, but I was noticing results. Like I was winning contests, and I was actually thinking about colleges, and like, oh my god, this could actually really influence what schools I can get into. Without this, I probably wouldn't be able to apply to a certain amount of schools. Uh, and so I started to like it then. Um, and I also just I got a lot better in high school, and so obviously being better at something makes it more fun.
Oh yeah, once you're starting to like win medals and like, all right, your first chair, it's like, all right, this is pretty good.
I never get to be first chair though.
Really?
Still a little bit salty about that, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but you're making way more money than the first chair is playing cello. So like, what are you gonna do about it? So then you played cello for a while. You're going to school, dual majoring one of them in cello performance. Um, but you're also you said you started last summer. Uh,
Yeah.
did you? What was the first time you made money playing cello? I guess was
Um,
it busking? Was it a bar show? Like how'd that happen?
so I'll just tell you the full story.
Go for it.
This was, after a hefty year of COVID, we were all kind of stuck at home. And in June, Chicago lifted all their restrictions. All the bars could be full capacity. Masking wasn't required anymore indoors. It was like the best time ever. So I was like, okay, this is what I got to be doing right now. I got to, actually no, I had no idea what I was doing because I was just, I had this cello and I knew some pop songs. My set list was kind of very limited at the time. I was playing like "Shape of You" by Ed Sheeran and like stuff like that, and it was just whatever. But I knew other people would know that song, so I was like, okay, let's see if they like it in these places. And
It was an electric cello, right?
it's electric cello, yeah.
So
Uh,
what is that kind of? Because most people think cello and they think big wooden body, like that kind of thing. What's an electric cello kind of look like, and what are the differences?
so how to describe it? It's it's made out of like a little bit of like carbon fiber, a little bit of plastic, maybe even a little bit of wood and metal. I have no idea, honestly. And there's no body in it. Like it's just you can punch your hand right through it.
Right.
Um, you know, and so but you hold it between your legs in the same way. And somehow it sort of makes a sound that's similar to a normal cello. So um,
Then you can get it into amps, and then you can do all the stuff with the pedal
yeah,
board. Like
exactly. Exactly.
right. You had that for a while, and then when COVID lifted,
Yeah, so I took it to yeah, I started knocking on doors. That's how it started. I literally just went up to a bunch of
nice.
restaurants and bars and said, "Hey, I play the cello. Uh, can I play here?" and they usually look at me like, "Dude, what the fuck?" Like, you know, uh, no, is usually their answer. And then like from time to time, one out of every six bar managers would be like, "Okay, sure." And I'll be
hmm
like, "Yeah, just let me give you 30 minutes. Like I'll do it for free the first time." And so I just played for 30 minutes, and every time I played it, like people loved it, and so the place would usually want me back after that. Um, and then it just started to build from there. But it was awesome because I was there's a lot of places that I would never have expected to want me to play cello there, but they did, and so
That's so cool because, like, I mean, the first thing is like that's a huge thing with live performances. You kind of have to make your own gig, especially because, like, I'm coming from stand up comedy where people, there's not like a hierarchy. There is a hierarchy, but there's also like a pipeline of like you do open mics and then you build up your time and people have shows and they invite you on shows. Then you do your own shit, like all this stuff. With performing cello, I mean, you kind of had to do everything on your own.
yeah. And it also felt like there were a lot of gatekeepers into the industry. Like, it's not like you
Really?
can just get in. Like, you have to break your way in and really push it because especially if you don't have an agent, you don't have like any background playing in this way, like you kind of just have to market and fend for yourself and hope that it works.
So are there a lot of other cellists doing? Is it cellist, right? Is that?
Yeah. You got
Yes.
it right. Most people would say celloist or something, but you,
No,
you got it.
my girlfriend plays clarinet at our college and all throughout high school and stuff. So I like have kind of gotten like the classical music terminology.
Yeah.
Like I know what a woodwind is versus a brass. Like that's I know saxophone is a woodwind though it looks like a brass. Like I'm very proud of myself.
Yeah.
Uh, but are there other cellists in the Chicago area who are doing something like this? You were talking about gatekeepers, or is that more the bars?
The gatekeepers are like the bars. They're the people who can, tell you yes or no you can play or not. Like you need them to get in. I don't know if any other cellists doing this. I've seen some videos of violinists with electric violins trying to play pop and stuff, and they have the advantage of being able to walk around and like, you know,
Right.
I don't know of any cellists doing it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome though. So you have to be super entrepreneurial to kind of do something like this. Like were there any moments of this idea is too crazy or this is never going to work, or have you heard of it enough to go like I could probably do this?
Dude, I was so bored. I was desperate for any kind of work. I, dude, imagine sitting home for a year. You're like locked up in your room. You can't do anything. And then like all of a sudden you're like free, but you don't have anything planned for your summer. Because we thought it'd be another
Mhm.
COVID summer. Like I had no idea. I didn't plan an internship. I didn't plan any like summer programs or anything. And I just had all this time on my hands and I was like, okay, let's try to make something out of this. I don't care if I fucking fail. Like I just want to, it actually expected failure more than success in this because the success rate with any given bar, like it's usually like 20% chance or less that they would even take you up on it. But I found that I also got better at pitching myself, and because I played at more places and had a track record, people were more likely to want me in the future. And so now when I go pitch myself to a bar, that it's a lot different, and I probably have a much better chance of being able to play there.
Yeah, getting some momentum going, like that's definitely a huge thing and building up the resume. It's kind of the first one is the hardest.
Yeah, for sure.
So, have you ever done any busking or anything like that, like street work?
So there's this one spot, and it's a place called Fulton Market. I had a family member of mine told me, you should just set up there and play. The tips will be great. And it's for people who don't live in Chicago. It's a street that's closed off to cars. It's in River North, which is in the heart of the city, downtown. And because there's no cars there, it's just people walking around, and on both sides there's outdoor seating for bars and restaurants. And so it's just
Nice.
like heavy foot traffic, especially on like Saturday nights. And so I, set up there once. I actually had to ask the bar to set up because I was, on their patio. I wasn't like busking in public and on like in a public spot. But this was like in front of this bar, and they took me up on it, and I, played, and it was great. And the tips there were just phenomenal. I mean, it was just something I'd never experienced before. Like, and so I had to keep doing it for that reason. And now it's great for followers too. A huge thing right now is for me to build a following, and if I go there and just put up a sign with my Instagram, like every hour it's like 50 new followers, which is really good.
Wow, that's so cool. And then you can keep kind of every hour, like you can kind of recycle songs and stuff because new people are coming by. Uh,
Yeah, you could.
how many songs do you have in your repertoire? Like, if you go play at a bar, how long do they ask you to do, and kind of how much are you able to do?
So alone, I'm able to do way longer than I can do with my brother because we just started together, and so we're still like building up a longer set list.
Mhm.
Alone, I can do 4 hours. I don't think
Wow.
no one ever wants me for that long because I think I think after 3 hours, the fourth is like less exciting, but I usually do for like 1 or 2 hours if I'm alone. Now with my brother, like we're at like an hour and a half right now, so we can do up to that. But we're gonna try to get it up to 2 hours because it seems like it's an industry standard to have at least a 2 hour set.
Wow. That's pretty like, is that intimidating at all when you kind of realize that that was the benchmark, or did you just keep adding songs and you ended up getting there?
It wasn't intimidating. It was actually just exciting because there's a lot of songs we want to learn, and if there's no motivation to learn them, like you'll kind of just put them aside and perform your hour. But if you know you have to learn 2 hours, you're gonna open yourself up to some new songs, and it's just more fun.
Yeah, it's a good point. So how do you find the songs that you guys want to play, or just you want to play specifically?
You got to do a lot of looking, see what kind of songs people like, what kind of songs they'll respond well to at bars, and obviously different bars and different crowds will respond better to different songs. Let's say you're in like a bar that's more 40 and 50-year-olds, you're going to be trying to play them different music than you would for a 20-year-old crowd, and so uh, it varies. But you got to do some research. You guys just got to see Spotify playlists have a lot of good songs. Like if you just go to like
Nice.
80s 90s hits, like they'll feed you some stuff, and you just you know. So we have a good idea of what people might like, but there's obviously times where in the past I've tried playing playing a new song, and I learned it at home, and like I brought it to the bar, and like nobody cared for it, and so yeah, you just
Yeah.
You just got to try, and then if you put it aside if it doesn't work.
So, what does, because I always wonder this with other performers, because stand up comedy is so obvious if you're doing well or if you're not. Like, you're either getting laughs or you're not. Like, that's the only line. So, what does a great set for you look like? And what does like a horrible bomb look like for you? And have you had any bombs?
Okay, so it's very similar to stand-up comedy. What you're saying, like people laughing or they don't, like people are singing along and loving it or they're not.
Right.
And obviously, some places want me as background music, or I don't do very much like that anymore. Um, but if the expectation is that your background music and people aren't like hands up in the air for you all the time, like that's not the end of the world. But if you're going into a place that there's a stage, it's a music venue, and if they're booking music, they're expecting you to get the crowd going, like
Hmm.
you gotta engage the crowd, and it's very obvious when the crowd is engaged. I think I
Yeah,
haven't
because
had what.
I'm just saying, yeah, I've seen the videos on your Instagram and stuff. Like people are jumping up and down, they're singing because also it's songs that they know, so it's easy to get them on board with it.
Exactly, exactly. And I feel like that the when you play on a cello, like those types of songs that everyone knows like all the words to, I think the fact that it's being played on a cello and a cello doesn't have the ability to sing lyrics kind of creates this hole that needs to be filled by the crowd of like
Interesting.
singing along. And so but they feel that urgency, and so they're more drawn to sing along to it. Um,
That's so cool.
Hypes it up a lot.
When did you start like that seems like a pretty big realization. I assume you didn't kind of find that off the jump. When did you kind of come to that understanding of the crowd dynamic?
I think it was pretty obvious from the beginning,
Really?
honestly. Yeah, and especially when I was playing alone, without my brother, like it was just me and like a loop pedal, which I just looped some chord progressions and played the melody over it. It doesn't. Okay, so alone, I just don't create that much sound, and so I feel like people fill it with their singing, with their
Mhm.
voices, I guess, and uh, in a lot of settings, uh, yeah. Now it's not as now that we have when I'm with my brother and a drummer, we can create enough noise that we're just like a band, and people can kind of just bob their heads.
Right.
But yeah,
But still, I mean, that is a really cool way to involve the crowd that I feel like you don't get in a lot of uh, other like entertainment kind of mediums. And
yeah.
then, yeah, have you ever like what's a bomb look like? And have you
um,
ever done that?
I've never had a really bad bomb, but sometimes especially in the beginning last year when I started, a lot of bars never really they didn't give me like the weekend slot, and so I'd be coming there on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. The place would kind of be half empty. And if the place is half empty, like it's very hard to get them going because they feed off each other. And if there's nobody there, it just feels kind of dead. I don't know
Right.
if that's a bomb for me or if it's just like a bad night at the bar. But
Right.
I've had a few of those. I don't have much anymore because when we mostly play on the weekends. But uh, it,
Nice.
there were a few of those last year.
Oh man, do I have so many nights of
Uh,
the Tuesday night at the bar,
Tuesday.
nobody's there. A half filled room would be incredible. Like it's
Yeah.
usually like four people and then a
Mhm.
bunch of comedian it's the oh, I know those nights all too well.
Yeah.
Um
It's not a good feeling.
oh god no. But it builds character, but I guess for something like this it's like, the audience is so reliant on it. Like you probably are doing a lot of the same stuff night after night. And if the audience is there, great. And if they're not, then that's the issue. Have you learned how to mitigate, like if an audience isn't super into it, how to get them more into the performance?
Yeah, totally. There's certain songs that can trigger them. And so if you play,
Interesting.
obviously on a set list, you want to have every song be as great as possible. There's always going to be some songs that are just innately superior.
Hmm.
And especially in the setting of a crowd, like there's some songs that you can play and the crowd will get into it. So the like question is, do you know, like in the beginning of a performance, do you go with those songs, or do you wait them out till the end? When do you put them in? Because once you put them in, you
Yeah.
don't have them anymore. And what you want to do ideally is have, one banger, crowds into it, another banger, like four in a row. and then the crowd will be going. Like,
Right.
in the, little secret is that, like, as a performer, you usually want to have that happen towards the end of the show, and that way you can finish on that, and that's what people will remember. Uh, but yeah, I mean, you just have to feel it out and see, okay, like, also someone is shouting Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift. You know, if
Right.
you pull out a Taylor Swift song, that whole table is going to start singing. And so if you get that table going, maybe the table next to them will also start going. It's just you can kind of take cues
Yeah.
like that and go
That
from there.
that's so interesting. The making of a set list. Because I love that kind of stuff. Because like I just think it's so interesting how performers set up their routine for the night and how they change it and stuff. So in stand up, the common adage is do your best joke last and your second to best joke first. So you open really strong and you close even stronger. And then it's all like, okay, this is kind of long. This is pretty short. This gets a big laugh. So I'll put it in the mid. Like, do you just kind of base it on the bar and the energy there? Like, oh, they're kind of down. Maybe I need to front load some of the popular songs to get them on my side. Like, or do you kind of just go in and have like a set list now?
I usually go in with the like a bunch of songs that I'm going to play. What order I play them, I don't know. Like, I sometimes just pull that out of my butt, but
Interesting.
it looks a lot like what you're saying, like starting high and then ending high. That's still, the way I think about it too.
Mhm.
You want to, like, the first song, you got to hit them with a banger.
Right.
You got to engage them, like, tell them you're someone worth staying for, and and then end high too. But the challenge is to not even have that middle where it drops. Like, if you can keep the set high the entire time, it doesn't really feel like you're doing like a great one, then dropping down and having to build up again. That's been like the biggest challenge because you really got to find the right songs. But once you have like an hour of songs like that, it doesn't even feel like it doesn't, you're so confident that people are going to continue to sing along and love it. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a drop off.
That's so cool. Like, cause yeah, you got to be thinking on the fly as to like how everything's gonna go. But if you just have confidence that everything's gonna work, then it's just kind of a load off, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Um, what has your experience been? Because you started last year when you were what, 18, 19.
18. Yeah.
So what's your experience been like performing in bars underage? Like, how do you get into the bars? How's that been challenging? And then how is it challenging to get people to respect you because of your age?
Um, it sometimes gets tricky with like, when you start and they like look at you and they're like, "How old are you?" And you tell them 18. They'll sometimes give you a weird look, like, then why are you, how are you trying to play here? Like, you're not even old enough to be here. But I usually respond with like a pretty easy line, like, I'm here to play music, not to drink. And they'll be like, "Oh, okay." And uh, then I'll play and it'll be fine. And then they'll want me back. It just becomes, then eventually, like, they'll realize, oh my God, this 18-year-old just been performing here. Like, is this a liability for us or no? It hasn't
Right.
been that big of an issue. There have been a few places that have never let me play because of that, but they're not like, they're just small places.
Right. That's really interesting.
This
Um,
summer I have a fake ID, so I can just tell them I'm 22. I know, they know. I'm not gonna, like, lie to their face, but, like, I'll be like this, like, when they're like, "How old are you?" I'm like, "Between the ages of 19 and 22. I can be as old as you want me to be." And then you have plausible deniability and you won't get in trouble, like,
dude, famous last words. I can be as old as you want me to be.
literally. Oh,
That's
okay, that
hilarious.
works for me, but not for my brother because he's 14 and he literally looks like he's 14, so he can't
Yeah. So
really
then,
get him a fake yet.
how do you? I guess you're just kind of banking on your prior relationships and history of playing at these places to get him in. I
Yeah,
assume
yeah, exactly.
that's nice. Okay. So your mom got you in this for classical, reasons. She wants you to play classical cello.
Yeah,
What was her reaction when you started playing in like these bars and stuff?
she was super supportive.
That's good. Because
Um,
you're still doing like the classical side of it as well. So this is kind of
oh, for sure.
additional.
Yeah, totally. She was very happy I was doing it, and she always wants to see me enjoying it, which I was. And She actually was the one who told me to go out and try to make money with it. So I was
Nice.
thinking like, okay, maybe I can just get a job as like a a waiter or something, or like just a normal like teenage summer job that made sense for me to have. And she was like, no, dude, go out with your go out with your cello. You have a skill. Like you'll probably make more money doing that, and you'll probably have more fun doing it too.
Oh yeah, way more fun. Even if the money, I'm sure the money is pretty good if you're playing on a bar on a Saturday night, making their money plus tips.
Yeah,
That's got to be pretty good.
for someone my age, it's probably the best job I could even ever imagine.
Oh, you also said you're doing shows kind of like every weekend.
Yeah, yeah. We
Does
usually
that
have
ever? Yeah.
what?
No. Yeah. So you said usually you have.
Yeah, we're usually Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, fully busy each of those days.
Wow. And does a bar book you for the weekend, or is that just different venues the whole weekend?
Different venues the whole weekend.
Damn.
Yeah.
Do you ever get like? Have you ever experienced burnout with it, or like, man, I gotta go do another one, or is it just so fun?
All of the above. Like, yeah, on a Saturday when we have like four sets in one day,
Holy shit.
starting at 1 and ending at 2 in the morning, like,
Oh
yeah,
my god.
it does get to that, but we're still so excited to do it, and we're riding that high a little bit still, and we can always call them off, but we choose not to because we love it so much, and uh, there's also this magical drink called Red Bull that can keep you going as long as you really want.
Yeah, I was about to say, you guys should be sponsored by an energy drink if you're not already.
Yeah, we should be.
Dude, that's wild. You'll do like 12 hours.
Yeah,
What does a day like that look like? Is it just chaos? Like just
yeah.
trying to turn the brain off and get through it? Or by the fourth show, are you able to kind of stay in it a little bit, or is it just flatline,
Uh,
little autopilot?
I think that because I have my brother with me, like being able to do that fourth show is actually easier because he just brings so much energy, and I feed off of that. And
Interesting.
it's just like he's this little hyper 14-year-old that just wants to play in front of people, which is like the best qualities to have as a performer. And you know he uh, he carries the energy for sure. I alone probably wouldn't be able to do four sets in a day, but with him I can.
And because you've been doing it and you're a little bit older, but he's just so eager and it's so new to him. And like being
Yeah,
18, 19, going into bars is pretty cool performing, but being 14, like that, he's got to think it's like the sickest thing ever.
yeah, yeah. I can only imagine.
So, how has, because you guys started doing this like this past summer or this current
Yeah,
summer,
this summer was when we started playing together.
how much kind of influence did you take from, what is it called? Two Cellos?
Yeah.
Is that those guys?
Those were the guys that like inspired us and from the beginning. We saw their show. So they're not from the US. They're from Europe and they rarely come to the US, but they've come twice in the last 4 years. And so we saw them when I was a sophomore in high school. Was that like 3 years ago? We were just blown away. That was actually the night that I purchased my electric cello because I'm like, you know what? One day I want to do this. I'm just going to buy this cello.
Oh, cool.
And they play on those electric cellos too. And and then I just like we saw them again this year. They did their last U.S. tour, or the last tour I think ever. They're splitting up now, unfortunately. But uh, we saw them, and my brother just looked at me. He's like, "Dude, don't fucking get a office job. We're doing this," you know.
That's so cool.
And so we've taken a lot from them, a lot of influence, uh, and we even play a lot of their songs too right now. Probably like
Yeah.
a third of our songs are songs that they play.
So did your brother pick up cello because of you? I assume.
Yeah, I mean, just like me, my mom forced him to play an instrument, but he saw me doing the cello, so I think that's why he wanted to do it too.
Well, now he's playing with Big Brother, and that's got to be such a cool experience for the both of you.
Yeah,
Uh, how do you think playing together has affected your relationship? Has it made it better or changed the dynamic at all?
I think it's made it better because this year was my first time moving out the house, and actually during COVID, we spent a lot of time together, obviously because we were
Which
at
can be
home.
good and bad. I
It
mean,
was it was really good, actually. It
that's
was
great.
amazing. I think that, you know, we play a lot of video games together. We watch a lot of movies. We'd watch movies till like 3 a.m. and it was great.
Wow.
And you know, when I left for school, that was our first time like parting ways. And I I know it was tough for him. It was definitely tough for me. And but now that we're doing this together, spending this much time together every day, it's yeah, I think it's a great thing for our relationship.
That's so awesome. And he's living in Chicago. You're going to school in Chicago, so you guys, I assume, intend to keep this going throughout the non-summer months.
We'll try. We'll definitely try. It'll be harder, but you know, we'll see if we can make it work.
Yeah, with school and everything, it's not super easy. But
Hmm.
um, I guess another question I kind of had was like, have you seen an what's the word I want to use? Like an impact from doing all this stuff, playing these pop songs in bars. Do you feel like anything's carried over to the concert side, or what do you think you've brought from the concert side over? Do you think they help each other at all?
Oh, like the classical music side?
Yeah, classical music versus like these bar shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, well, the classical is the most important thing because that being classically trained is like, you know, that's going to make you the best musician possible. You can't get good at cello by playing these pop and rock songs, but
Hmm.
and so you need to be classically trained. So that's the biggest thing, and that's why I'm still doing it. Like I'm at the very beginning of a 5 year program where I'm
Wow.
hopefully just going to get like really good at it. And I know this is just the beginning. Now, does the cello, electric cello, help the classical cello? Is a very good question. I think I think yes, there is a benefit to it, which is the fact that you're always getting up in front of people consistently night after night.
Mm.
Uh, it gets you more comfortable playing in front of people, more relaxed on stage. Um, you know, I think that definitely translates into the classical performance aspect.
That's really interesting though, because it's like that. It's more about the performance overall and being in front of the crowd versus. I mean, the classical pieces you're doing are way harder than Thunderstruck.
Yeah,
Um, but obviously, as you keep getting better with classical cello through your program, you're probably just going to be able to do more complex songs or do songs in more interesting ways at the bar shows.
definitely, definitely. I already noticed a difference in my playing from last summer to this summer. Like,
Nice.
you know, and you know, my mom noticed it too. She's like, you know, your bar stuff sounds better. I'm like, wow, okay.
When you first got up in front of that audience, like the bar first gets you on like that Wednesday night or whatever, were you nervous playing in front of, obviously just playing in front of people in that setting and also because they were older than you? What was kind of the emotions behind that?
Nervous and excited because it wasn't a huge bar. It wasn't a lot of people the first time. Uh, it was this tiny little Irish bar.
Oh, I love those. Oh, done so much stand up in
Yeah,
tiny shitty little Irish bars.
right. Yeah, no, they're great. I mean, the people there are awesome. They're
Oh, they're so
definitely
fun.
good. I was nervous because I had just gone to 10 other bars asking to play, and they all said no, and this was the first one that said yes, and I'm like, oh, this got to be good.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
especially an Irish bar in Chicago, like of all cities.
yeah,
That's got to be so much fun.
it was that was probably the most fun ever. Was the first time.
Really. That's
Yeah,
so cool. Because usually, like, for most people, like, the first time is so nerve wracking that you kind of forget to have fun with it.
maybe it was a feeling after I finished, but
Yeah. And
yeah,
then, obviously, because you'd been doing it for so long, like, that must have also just helped with the confidence going in as well.
yeah, it did, it did.
Because, like, for like stand up, like, the first time you ever do it is that first time you ever do it. Like, there's no, and even then, people like, who might play guitar or something or an instrument, like obviously you can practice so many times, but that first time you're on stage it's kind of a new experience, but you'd have so much experience playing classical concerts and recitals and stuff. Do you think that
Mhm.
kind of prepared you for when you start doing these bar shows?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, the biggest thing was just the skills that I had built up by playing classical music, you know, in general. Um,
Nice.
I don't think I have that many classical recitals. I have them like maybe once every 2 months.
So I guess the last question is like, where what's the trajectory for you both on the classical side and on this like kind of live performance side?
Yeah, classical side is just to get as good as possible. We're gonna keep working. We're gonna keep,
Nice.
practicing our every day classically, build our skills, and hopefully this takes off. Hopefully we can get to bigger stages and play in front of bigger audiences. And
Yeah.
w- we have no idea where it's gonna go, so we're just gonna enjoy it now and see what happens.
But it's so cool because it is wide open for you and especially you and your brother, like a double act plus a drummer. Like
Mhm.
that's got to be so great to just see all this room to grow both inside in like the venue and how big that can get, and then also how many songs you guys can do, how complex the songs can get.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Where can people find you and your brother's band, and where can they find you performing?
Follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram is Raviv Band, Raviv Band, and we very often post where we're gonna be playing, and so you can catch us there.
You guys thinking of touring outside of the Chicago area?
Hopefully, hopefully.
That'd be awesome. So yeah, go check them out, and hopefully in the next couple of years, they might be in your city or a city near you, or if you're in the Chicago area, they're doing shows every weekend from 1 in the afternoon until 1 at night. So you might be able to find them at a bar. As far as the podcast, this is the On Their Way Up podcast. That's Their for those of you who can't spell at all. And then you can find that on, obviously, you're listening to it right now. So subscribe where you're listening. You can also watch it on Spotify and on YouTube. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter. That's On Their Way Up. It's an orange logo with white lettering and an arrow. And my name is Spencer Gordman. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Spencer_Gordman. See live shows and clips of me doing that. And definitely follow the Review Band. They post kind of videos uh, somewhat frequently and on their stories and stuff. These concerts look like a blast, dude. Like so much fun. And your guys thunderstruck with you and your brother. Like, I mean, that was so much energy. I absolutely love that,
That's a fun one for sure.
dude. So cool. Well, thank you for hopping on the podcast. Thank you everybody for listening, and have a good rest of your day.